everybody, what is going on? I am Max Mr. X, and this is Big Baby Reviews. Once again, I am joined by my good friend Mark Darden, and we're looking at some more founding fathers of Image comic books today. We are looking at Savage Dragon issue number 2 from the very first miniseries by Erik Larsen.
Yeah, and so we've been going through the issue 2s with the concept of looking at them like writing and art production, like who got stronger as Image went on, and maybe who got kind of pulled under by the tidal wave of all the extra chores that they suddenly found themselves having to do. And so far, like Youngblood number 2, better issue than number 1. Even though it's still not a massively complicated story, there was more story to be read. There were way more backgrounds. The art was still top-notch, fantastic. The writing was still, it was a little better. You know, it had improved a little bit. So it's a great second issue by comparison to the first. Spawn kind of comes down a bit. The cover's not as striking. The images aren't as detailed. Spawn's a lot more static in a lot of the images, where it felt more like he had to get through and get things done. We don't get the graphic design pages like we got before that stood out so strongly. And a lot of it loses a lot of that where the shadows worked in the first issue, and in the second issue, they're not really doing that. So art-wise, it kind of dips off, and not a lot happens. Only a few plot points. So it's kind of a downer issue by comparison to the first one. And then we're on to Savage Dragon, so number 3. So we'll see how it stacks up. Probably pretty good.
Well, yeah, I think already art-wise with the cover, we're getting some more, Erik Larsen awesomeness. Lots of explosive energy on this cover, lots of action, lots of movement. The characters, are fully in movement. I don't know if that's a miscolor on the cover here. It almost feels like that fist at the bottom left is colored like the characters that's off panel, but it should be the Savage Dragons. I'm not sure on that one, but it stands out. I mean, could be either or, but I just noticed that now. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And that could very well be because the two fists are so similar, but there is the white hand coming in. So maybe it's another one of me, but it wouldn't make sense fist-wise. So I agree with you. But his shoulder's also off here, so it would be weird if his shoulder was here, but his arm wrapped all the way around to here. So it's probably an enemy fist that just looks real similar. But on the cover itself, I like this cover way more than issue number 1 cover. You liked issue number 1 cover more than I did. Drawing wise, it was great, but just not a lot of background. It's just very simple, a figure coming forward. This one we get 2 figures. You've got the one figure in the front, pretty dynamic pose. I like, it's very like boxer pose that he's got going. Savage Dragon crashing, Savage Dragon, Super Patriot crashing through the wall in the background, like, yeah, I'm here to help, or don't forget about me, whatever it is, it's fun. And then these rando hands in the beginning. So we know Savage Dragon is fighting somebody, but we don't know who it is or what, but I still just kind of like how cartoonish that is, of here he is coming in with the pose, and this time there's just a hand mushing him. I think it's a lot of fun. I like this cover so much more than the first one. And again, not because the first one's bad, but this one's just a lot more fun. There's a lot more detail going on. So props.
Yeah, lots of debris everywhere, which is always, kind of adds to the dynamism of all the action that's going on. The cover logo I find is maybe just a little bit obscured there. I don't know. That's kind of a weird choice.
That part's bad. Yeah.
Through. That's the one element where it's like, they always say you want to make sure the logo is easy to read so people can identify what book it is. That would be the only kind of negative thing I think on this cover here. And of course, I like the hyperbole that he always adds to the cover, right? The second intense issue is kind of, I think he keeps it up for the whole miniseries. So the third issue is going to be extreme or intense or awesome or something like that. I guess we'll find out when we do the review of issue 3.
Yeah, the logo is the one problem. It obviously needs a different color, like a red would have popped very well, or a blue, but doing green with that background, it's very obscured. Plus the fact that there is a slight color to the actual letters, not just the border.
Yeah.
But it's with a low opacity, so it's a yellow, but it's a yellow that's still allowing the art to come through, so it just blends in way too much. Again, a red, a blue, something else would have popped. but doing green against this brownish, yellowish background and it being a lighter green just didn't work very well.
It's just everything seems to be fighting against it being visible, basically, right? You've even got Super Patriot here kind of overlapping with his ponytail and the fist and stuff. So just kind of almost not purposely, but almost doing everything to obscure the logo, which is kind of a weird choice.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, pretty cool cover. Let's crack this one open.
Yeah. Credits page, black and white, but I think it works really well. The space is filled up. We get a cool shot of the dragon. And I think the black and white pops on this one. I think they did a good job with that.
Yeah, I think it's a nicely designed credits page. That image is taken from one of the posters from issue 1, one of the pinups.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool, solid image of the dragon. And I've talked about in the past how with the Image comics, I always liked when they would throw in some sort of image on that credits page just to give you something visual relating to the artwork and to the comic right off the bat. And I just want to bring your attention to this little box here. It says special thanks to fabulous Fabian Niciezi, I think is how I read that name is supposed to be pronounced, for helping design the new and improved Super Patriot. So we're talking beforehand, before we got on camera, about this concept of Super Patriot having been designed before the Savage Dragon series and originally meant for some sort of Marvel project, which I believe was an X-Force project that Larsen worked on. I was mentioning to you that those pages got burnt up when Larsen had a house fire, but some of the photocopies he had survived, and you can find those online. He's posted them himself on the Savage Dragon Facebook fan page, so I've seen a bit of that. But all that is to say that he's crediting Fabian with helping out with Super Patriot a bit, because originally the character, again, was going to appear in a Marvel comic, and then at some point, I guess Larsen decided to change the design a little bit for Marvel so that he could use Super Patriot. And maybe in around the time he started thinking about working for Image and doing the Savage Dragon series. So really that character at Marvel morphed into Cyborg X, who appeared in Larsen's last storyline for Spider-Man. So if you see that design in the Spider-Man book, it's similar. He's changed a few things, probably trademark copyright issues, but it's a very similar design and a similar concept.
Yeah, it is pretty cool to look back and see that series and then see this cyborg pop up where it's like, yeah, it's very similar where the body's kind of intact here, but the very over-the-top cybernetic limbs and with the shooting guns. Although that's also so manga-ish.
And so 90s, right, at this point. Like, obviously, Super Patriot's not the only character who ended up having weapon arms, whether blades or guns or lasers, right? Yeah,
a lot of toys were making that kind of figure.
Yeah, there's that famous Punisher toy, that Transformer that turns into a gun. Have you ever seen that one?
Oh, I don't think I'd have. No.
It's pretty unfortunate. When he's in his Punisher mode, the gun actually comes out of like his genital area. It's kind of odd. I'll send you a picture at some point. It's a pretty funny toy. All right, let's go into the comic then.
Yeah. Again, kicking off with the splash page, and I think it does this through the whole 3-issue miniseries, but splash page and then double page splash. Not a lot of text, so you're just getting a cool image. Savage Dragon down in some kind of tunnelish area with water, and it's obviously looking for something.
Yeah, art-wise, I just want to mention a few things on this one. One, I like the kind of muted coloring that they're using here, where it's almost very desaturated and you're not getting a lot of color, which makes sense in the dark and the sewers and stuff. So the colors really kind of fitting his colors to the mood and the scene that's being established here, which I think is cool. The shadow effect that he's got on the dragon himself, and then his cast shadow on the back wall, I think works really well and is really well rendered. And you really get the sense of that flashlight being pretty bright. Works really well. And one thing I noticed flipping through this issue before the review, there's a thing where Eric Larsen, talks about other artists drawing the dragon and specifically the fin.
Yeah.
He'll say, looks great, but he got the fin wrong. And it's kind of a comment that comes back. Larsen himself here, according to what he establishes a bit later, gets the fin wrong on this first illustration, right? Where it's kind of going up from his forehead, where I think it feels like he figured it out in this issue. because as we go past the first few pages, you'll start to notice that it does start to come out almost kind of straight rather than up. And he's
Yeah.
talked about this, how early on he struggled a little bit with exactly how to depict the fin from different angles. So early on in this issue, we see it like this, and then by about mid-issue in the next few pages, we'll see that he kind of gets a grasp on the kind of almost straight out jutting from his forehead that it's the design is going to keep with for, you know, up to now, basically.
I'm flipping through as you're talking, and it's pretty inconsistent.
Yeah.
And it must be difficult to remember just at every turn of the head exactly where the fin should be. Yeah, this has far more of a Fishman look from like,
yes,
you know, any kind of like cartoon or something. This angle here, which totally works. I mean, you know, who cares if he turns the head a little bit and doesn't get the angle quite right? But it is kind of a funny trope.
Yeah, it's those little things I like to notice in like the progression of a character's design where things tend to be a little looser at first and then start to solidify. Like I feel like within a few issues, he's really figured out how to draw the fin from all the different angles. But I can imagine that you have to go through those issues to figure all that stuff out, right?
Yeah. The it's kind of funny the way he's got him holding the flashlight is kind of awkward, weird, but it's in shadow so much it's hard to really notice what the hand's doing.
Yeah, he's got a bit of a lumpy hand going on there.
Yeah, it's almost like there was going to be a second gun and then it went to a flashlight instead. And then
that sounds very possible.
Yeah, the shadow behind him is interesting. It would be hard to really capture like what's the angle of the light hitting so that it still gets that mouth in there.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it's not exactly realistic, but it's awesome. It's very cartoonish and
it's very designy, I guess. It's like the logic of it doesn't matter. It just kind of looks cool, right?
Yeah, no, it'd be way over analyzing to be like, yo, what angle could you possibly capture this shadow?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Well, and theoretically, also, if he's pointing the flashlight forward, we wouldn't be getting any of this light, you know, to push the shadow backwards, anyways, right?
Yeah.
The logic of comics, basically.
Oh man, this one's so good. This double page splash, definitely, I think it beats the double page splash from the previous issue. It's so full up. I mean, the giant arachnid character, all the bodies in the background. And again, it's a good utilization of where he's just got in that one corner, just the head and arm. So you establish another figure, but it's the most detailed one. And then behind it, more bodies where you can see a lot of them. And then there's, you know, again, on like the edges or sticking out from behind something, there's just another part of a body establishing more and more people. Awesome that he got to use webbing again. You know, he spent years learning to draw these hyper detailed webs. So good way to really bring it home. I mean, the figure over on that lower right corner that's completely webbed up and just this tatter of webbing. It got to use all these skills that he had been building and do a good bit of making fun of an old character that he drew. But it's a great, horrific shot. It's got a lot of shadow in just good utilization of the shadows where it's shadowing out some details, like blacking out some details, but not so much that you don't really get to see the image. And again, it's so moody. I love everything they did with it.
Yeah, I think moody is a good word. Like it really sets the mood. The inking is very like all the different textures. It's very grimy and dirty. So to get across the setting of the sewer, but also this kind of gross character that is the arachnid and the gross stuff that he's probably doing to these people here. Got to assume just like a real spider, he's kind of webbing them up to eventually, you know, suck their innards as a source of food or something. It's never shown in the comic, but that was always kind of what I felt as a kid is probably what would have happened if Savage Dragon hadn't intervened. This is early on when I was a kid in my comic collecting kind of career. So I was like, maybe this is the first time I encountered like a kind of a nasty, weird, disgusting version of Spider-Man, basically, right? Like kind of a dark, twisted version of Spider-Man. And I thought that was really cool how he had interpreted that. The 6 arms, right? And then, you know, he's got 2 arms that are really kind of big and muscular. And then he's got kind of spindlier, kind of skinnier arms, more like an actual spider.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a really cool kind of disgusting design that works really well within the context of the environment and what he's doing there.
Yeah.
And this image just kind of 100% sells it. Like you said, the web and just the different textures, the way he depicts the water, just a variety of textures all across this page that really work well. And, a little bit of blood all over the place, which again, having read mostly Marvel comics up to this point, I'm just not used to that level of, even though it's not that high on this page, but just that there's a bit of gore on it, right?
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
comics code.
And a good use of bandages. Like if you don't have time to really figure that face out, bandage it out makes perfect.
You can come up with the actual design later if you want. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. I don't think we ever saw this guy again, but awesome 2-page splash.
Very cool.
And yeah, and then this the issue starts out so moody. I mean, it's the full bleed art like you've mentioned before, and it sticks with these dark colors that are very muddy and very muted. Other than I guess the lettering, some of the colors for that pop a bit more. And what we're seeing on the screen is brighter than the actual comic.
Yeah.
So it's much darker on the actual pages, and it's the old school paper. It's not the shiny gloss paper yet, which honestly I quite prefer. I like the feel of it, and the colors, they bleed into it better.
I like sometimes, I don't pay that much attention to sound effects generally, but it makes me kind of giggle when I actually read what the sound is. So him shooting the webs out of his veins here is pretty cool because again, as a kid, Spider-Man, like the sound fraboosh is just hilarious to me that's what the sound is. And also this idea that, Spider-Man built his web shooters. This guy's got it coming out of his veins. This is before there was ever any talk of organic web shooters on Spider-Man. So kind of my first exposure to this kind of concept. And again, it's, past this, it's been talked about that really, if it was quote unquote realistic or based on reality, then Spider-Man would be going around swinging from his ass, right? Like the webs would be coming out of his ass because that's where spider webs actually come from.
Yeah, they did that in the Venture Bros. And also Eric Larson has a character that shows up later that does launch webbing from her backside.
Yes.
Choom 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 is a pretty funny shooting noise.
Yeah, there's something like wham makes sense to me, but there's always a few sound effects. So I'm curious as to how they come up with what it's supposed to sound like or the sound that it's supposed to represent. And here's a shot of the dragon too, where I was talking like, I feel like here the fin is a little more in line with what we're used to.
Absolutely.
And I mean, Larson just right off the bat, starting this issue with a pretty long action sequence. Yeah. So the first issue I thought was pretty good as far as action sequence and story, like the balance. This one still has a lot of story, but man, is there a lot of action in issue number 2, surprisingly even more than in issue number 1.
Yeah, I think he lines up about. I think it's pretty close to the same 5 pages. I think where it feels like more is the talking afterwards. That for the beat that it's very close.
Because there's kind of 2 major sequences, right, in issue 2.
Because splash page, double page splash for issue 1, 5 pages of fighting, and then there's 2 pages of the kind of back and forth of like, I'm not afraid of you, you better back down, and then he turns them in. So yeah, the first issue opens with a 5-page fight scene and then kind of 2 pages of resolution. So I think it might be
almost the same.
Yeah, and that's almost like just following a planned pattern. Because you get about 5 pages of battle in this. Okay, it goes to 6 really, and then only has like a 1-page resolution. First, the other one was 5-page fighting, and then kind of a 2-page resolution, kind of sort of. I mean, the fight didn't really end on page 6. I mean, there was the back and forth intimidation where the guy's like, you can't beat me, I'm not done yet, and then he's like, you better stand down.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
he like followed the script real closely, and then he gets back. There's like a little bit of story beat stuff, but yeah,
This page I appreciate just because there's not a lot to read, not too much dialogue. It's just full on action. Kind of enjoy
yeah,
that.
no, it definitely gets you right into the comic of just looking at some cool imagery. There's really no, I mean, the words are what few words there are don't mean a lot. It's just the arachnid giving a little bit of hyping himself
Yeah.
up and talking about himself in the third person. But story wise, you don't really need that information. So issue 1 to issue 2, he really follows pretty much the same pattern, the same story beat of opening on about 5-6 pages of action with a 1-2 page resolution. And this one follows the pattern. We do get this cool thunderous punch. It's amazing to be able to leap out of the water, punch, and send the other guy flying out of the water. That's some incredible physics there.
Comic book physics.
Yeah, that leap punch.
And there's another weird, well, a few weird sound effects right at the top there. Harock,
Yeah.
not sure what that's supposed to mean. Whack, I guess, is the punch, right? That can, I mean, whack is almost like whack, so I guess that kind of works.
Close.
But then babaloosh, that's a pretty funny one to me.
Bubble, yeah. Yeah.
Pretty sure it says babaloosh, right?
That's probably what it is. And
almost sounds like someone's nickname, you know, Baba Booey from the Howard Stern show or something.
Did he tell Chris the letterer, just make the silliest sound effects you can?
I feel like they probably do that sometimes. You know what I mean? Just have fun with it and find some quirky words to use for the sound effects.
Yeah.
Maybe we should be paying more attention to those as we go through this issue.
That's the secret message now. It's in the sound effects.
Yeah, exactly. They probably spend more time on that than on the plot. No, I'm just kidding. Well, even here at the top, what is that? Scrackaroom?
That's a good guess.
Yeah.
No, we get the Watchmen style resolution, the Rorschach of like, oh, he's in water, throw an electrical wire down, or an electrical wire happened to fall down. Either way, Savage Dragon gets out of the water and hangs onto the ceiling somehow, like a spider. And then meanwhile, the giant spider man gets electrocuted and knocked out. And then luckily, you know, once the wire hits the water and electrocutes the bad guy, then it just turns off.
Of course. Yeah.
You know how wires do that. It's like, zzz, and then they quit.
An initial blast, and then all the electricity is spent, right? I think that's how it works.
Yeah, that's how it works. Shorts out the system. We're all done. Everybody's safe. Then all the police can come walking into the water and not get zapped.
Just a quick Frizak is what's going on here.
Yeah, hopefully in between panels he radioed. Oh, because we're not to the next page yet. Yeah, hopefully in between panels he radioed, was like, okay, it's all clear, guys. You can come in now. Water's no longer getting electrocuted.
I like this first panel, the way he's kind of lifting up the arachnid character. It does really look like he's really heavy, even though Savage Dragon's pretty strong.
Yeah.
Seems like he's having to, you know, put some energy into it here. The weight of the character being passed out, obviously, is well conveyed here. Very cool.
Yeah, and the character's a big bloated mess, so it would make sense that even the very strong Savage Dragon is going to have a hard time moving this giant body around. But meanwhile, Savage Dragon is a generous and frequent lover of regular strength women and manages not to destroy them. So doesn't, you know, you can't get into the physics too much in these books.
Well, that's the Superman thing with Lois Lane, right? They played around with, like, Frank Miller played around with it a lot, where he's like, you know, that's why he's always got Superman kind of paired up with Wonder Woman, because, you know, in quotes, she can kind of take it, I guess. She's built sturdier than Lois Lane. I'll put it that way.
Also, Frank Miller has her kind of hate men, so she's probably also giving it.
She feels like she likes it rough, I guess. In Frank Miller's world, like, she's just, you know, I think she's shitting on the men so the men can then turn around and just give it to her really hard. That's the sense I get anyway.
Didn't keep the she's shitting on the men so that the
So they can, either
yeah.
cower or step up to the plate,
Yeah, again, not going graphic.
It's a challenge.
Yeah. So they have at the resolution here, they have a little bit of kind of making fun of Spider-Man and also Marvel in general. You can kind of see where it's alluding to like, hey, here was the big enemy that has become bloated and soft and lazy, and here we are coming along having to finally put it down. So it's a little bit tongue in cheek of he's kind of alluding to Marvel and alluding to Image as the next line that's having to battle them.
Yeah, Image is definitely the rookies taking over for the old timers, right? Yeah.
Yeah, very much. And then yeah, when we turn the page, I'm kind of flipping through each issue. So in the first issue, there's a splash page of him in the burning field, and then there's a page of him in the hospital having the back and forth with Frank. Instead, this one, when you switch, it's in the hospital with the back and forth with Anne, the nurse, and essentially just kind of giving how he got his name, and it's going back to Frank giving him the job, like that. Hey, I talked to my cousin, and you're getting this job at the warehouse, which seems a little out of place, but it makes a lot of sense when you get to the next page. But yeah, fun little page. A lot of panels, 11 panel grid, good use of it, where each panel is just for a little back and forth. One face shot, not a lot of detail, which is a good use of it and breaking up the text. But it's just the facial emotions back and forth.
Yeah, Larson's always really good at this, where the layout kind of reflects the mood of what's going on, right? So obviously the action sequences have big panels, big bombastic stuff going on, some broken borders and stuff. And then when he gets to the scenes like this, where it's just a conversation, it tends to go a little bit more kind of old school comic book, just very kind of rectangular layouts, pretty standard, no full bleed. It's keeping it a little bit more domestic on these kind of pages. And we get a nice moody shot of Frank there, lots of shadows, obviously kind of foreshadowing a little bit of Frank's dark side that we're going to learn about here.
Yeah. So the comic then follows with exactly 2 pages of Savage Dragon and Frank and what's going on with them, just like the first issue does. So it's very much following like this exact outline from the first issue, but this continues to build on that, hinting at, it doesn't yet state it yet, but hinting that Frank actually set up the tragedy that occurred at the warehouse. Like, it doesn't say it yet, but I think what ended up happening, I mean, his cousin, he talked to his cousin, got Savage Dragon the job, but then he's the guy who made the call in some way to the vicious circle to get them to think there's something at that warehouse they would want, whether it was weaponry or supplies or something that got them to go there, which obviously it then didn't. It went much worse than what Frank was hoping for. Frank was just hoping they'd show up, Dragon would fight them and take care of them, but instead the warehouse ends up getting blown up, and
his cousin's dead.
And his cousin's dead, yeah. So he got what he wanted in getting Dragon to see the problem and join the force, but he did not mean for his cousin to die.
Yeah. We're getting a bit of like almost in the structure of the story between issue 1 and 2, a little bit of that memento thing where we're kind of going back and forth, right? Because like with the previous page, we're early on in issue 1 where he's kind of getting out of the hospital, hasn't become the police officer yet.
Yeah.
And here, like, this is, I feel like sequentially, probably after the page where Savage Dragon shows up at Frank's house once the warehouse has been blown up, and he shows up naked. Frank takes him in. This would almost be the next page, and if it was an issue 1, right? So he's kind of jumping back and forth there.
Yeah, it could be, or I mean, it could. This page could literally be following the battle in the sewer, and it just be later that night, and Frank's just having a heart-to-heart with his wife. Yeah, it's not exactly clear, but I guess it's not that important.
Yeah, I just feel like he's almost like he's still kind of dressed as he was dressed when he opened the door for Savage Dragon. So And because he did it with that page before at the hospital, I feel like he's doing a little bit of that back and forth kind of stuff. I could be wrong. So here we get
yeah. I see
what I was mentioning is it almost feels like a RoboCop homage, right? Because this scene is straight out of RoboCop when RoboCop's, back on the police force after he died and became RoboCop, and he's at the gun range and he's basically doing the same thing as Savage Dragon here, shooting every bullet right into the same hole.
Yeah, and then when he gets complimented, he has this whole freak out because, again, I don't remember who I am, where I'm from. Very Jason Bourne, just really good at a bunch of stuff and just doesn't know the details of his own history, but knows everything else.
This is just a little bit of a nitpick, but I always kind of noticed, even as a kid, Frank's kind of, he's got his arm kind of grabbing the back of his neck like that, with the Jesus comment, but then the hands colored green here. So a little bit of a misstep with, is that the same in the comic?
Yeah, is it supposed to be? Yeah, it absolutely is the same, and same coloring. So yeah, it's a weird layout because Frank's behind him complimenting him, and then suddenly it's like, is that dragon's arm around him?
Well, because the hand's colored green, right? It feels like the colors, maybe he's rushing through it and figured it was the dragon's hand, but it's not, right? I definitely think it's meant to be Frank kind of doing this kind of deal.
Yeah. It's right, that's supposed to be his arm coming across. Yeah. And it ends up blending in. It does throw things off. Yeah.
Sound effects make sense here. Blam, click, click.
Yeah, and Dragon's face in the final panel, it looks far more human than the squarish jawline and facial structure that we get in most of the other panels. But hey, Eric does a ton of amazing stuff, so it's nitpicky.
Yeah, I think what he's going for with that shot is just kind of the bit of confusion and that the dragon is feeling. So getting the emotion across was maybe a little bit more important. But you're right. It's almost a little bit photo referenced maybe for that emotion or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that earnest look. And we get this cool splash page of Super Patriot, and it falls exactly in line. If you're following these two comics, they're literally doing this between issue 1 and 2. They're just following the same stuff. So Super Patriot shows up in the comic on the exact same page as he does in issue 1.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay. Yeah, so it's just continuing to hammer home, like, we're checking in on this part here with Frank and Dragon. Now we're checking in on Super Patriot at the same point. Obviously, in the previous comic, he had gotten beaten up and torn up and was, on life support. And now we're seeing the aftermath with the cool hook up to all the tubes and wires, and it's rebuilt as this cyborg guy, but all patriotic colors. It's a really cool shot. I think the only thing, can you imagine it with Barry Winslow Smith style with even more tech in the background and more tubes and wires?
That Weapon X kind of look. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, to me, it's like with what we've seen last issue of Super Patriot, obviously we got a quick shot of him, and a lot of what happened to him is explained kind of in the dialogue and the exposition. It's almost as if, Eric has taken a character that was very much in the first issue, definitely inspired by the Golden Age. Yeah. And now he's brought him into the future. He's imagified him, for lack of a better term, right? All of a sudden, Super Patriot now is most definitely an image, early 90s kind of extreme character.
Yeah,
he's got the shoulder pads, right? He's got the cybernetics, basically all the cable accoutrements.
Yeah, and it's very funny because you already brought up RoboCop, where Savage Dragon's kind of having the shooting scene like from RoboCop, and he's hitting everything directly to center. And then essentially Super Patriot gets RoboCopped. It's literally the same, where he got torn up by the enemies. His body is just mangled and meshed up, and now they've rebuilt him to be a crime-fighting cyborg who's not completely in control. I mean, it's very similar. So that maybe that was a movie that Eric Larsen absolutely loved, and a lot of people do.
Understandably, yeah. I think RoboCop's influence on comics of the era can't be understated. It's not mentioned a lot, but and then when you go to RoboCop, you actually, when you watch the movie, you'll see stuff in there that, like, is this from Dark Knight Returns? So it's all kind of comes full circle, right? There's that scene listen, we're going to see in this issue. I don't want to, sell it ahead of time, but we see it on the cover with super patriots busting through a wall. In RoboCop, we've got the scene where he busts through a wall to grab that guy who's he's got some what's the word? He hasn't hijacked, but when you have the word escapes me, hostages, right? And I think it's in the government building or something. That scene is straight from Dark Knight Returns, where Batman busts through the wall for one of the mutants who's kidnapped a kid, right? So everything kind of comes full circle there.
Then we get that.
I was going to say a little domestic moment for Savage Dragon here.
Yep, they in the previous issue they had a 2-page of basically Frank and Dragon still talking as he's trying to recruit him, and then in this comic we've got 2 pages of this girl trying to recruit him
for different
reasons. Yeah. But yeah, it's very over the top. Girl who's very curvy and wears almost nothing. Slightly creepy line to say, "Do you live by yourself?" to someone you just met. I think I would avoid that. But yeah, it's just setting up. It's a short shot setting up the love interest as Savage Dragon has just moved into a new apartment, so he's moving forward with life, getting his own place, but meets one of his neighbors who just happens to be a super hot chick who lives with her mom and doesn't have much going for her in life.
Yeah, the super hot chicks in the Larsen verse really seem to go for Dragon. Pretty much every new girl that's introduced is pretty much going to become almost a love interest, or at some point a love interest. I reviewed the whole series, the regular series up to issue 50, and I was surprised later on that eventually Savage Dragon and Alex actually do hook up for a little while there.
Yeah, well, he's very much in the position of being like, he's like a celebrity if you were a pro athlete or a movie star or whatnot, except that this pro athlete movie star has almost no money and just lives in a little apartment complex.
Yeah. It's just, I thought Alex would be the one holdout throughout the whole series, right? So when I got to the point where they actually started knocking boots, I was actually genuinely surprised that it happened.
Yeah, and you had aforementioned that she's is like the sidekick in RoboCop, whose name was also Alex.
Yeah, you're right. Her name is Alex in the comic as well? Yeah. So I like this little line here, where are you a member of Youngblood or something? Just those little touches to try to, Larsen right off the bat is trying to create those connections between all the different Image books. I felt like he was putting in a little bit more effort than the other guys maybe to do that stuff. They were all doing a little bit, but he's a little more consistent with it, right? We'll see Bedrock in next issue, and we'll see a bit of Spawn as well there. So
yeah, and in he does mention like that the Youngblood is supposed to be the pretty superheroes that you can put in all the advertisements and see on television, and he references that and it's like, no, I wouldn't look right for them. I'm a cop.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then he's got to rush off to the job.
Always some trouble somewhere with the vicious circle, right?
Yeah.
Here's a great shot of the dragon. I just love that shadow that falls across half of his body, just looks really cool and dramatic. I remember reading that Larsen hates drawing vehicles generally, and that he got one of his friends to help him out with this motorcycle here. He inked it, but he actually had a friend draw kind of the basic layout of it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And this page stands out a lot from the other pages because I don't think there's another page in the issue where they use this much shadow, this much blacked out figure work. Obviously, in the first panel, it's not quite so strong, but you've got about close to half his body is blacked out, bits and pieces of the motorcycle, a little bit of the background. But in panel 2, it's almost all blacked out with just a little bit of detail, and then just a flat, solid color in the background. And the next panel, you get more detail, but there's still a lot blacked out. And the fourth panel, where it's kind of getting back to the action, probably the least blacked out, but it stands out a lot because of the red, the flatter colors, and how much is being blacked out compared to any of the other pages.
Definitely has a bit of a Frank Miller vibe to it, a little bit of a Sin City touch. What I like about it too is, to me, I might be getting this wrong, but the coloring, the red and all that, it kind of evokes like a certain time of day. To me, it feels like it's almost like sundown, right? Right before the sun kind of sets. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, but I kind of like that. To me, is what is being evoked here, right?
Yeah, and as I was mentioning with it following the same story beats, this is also the exact same point in issue 1 that he has to deal with the vicious circle. They come in and they attack the warehouse, but in this case, he's getting set up to deal with the vicious circle because they've taken a bunch of hostages. Apparently is why he throws the gun away.
Well, they say here, Alex tells him the bad guys are bulletproof. You'll only hurt civilians with that thing. So the ricochets, right?
Yeah, which is a good point.
Yeah, but as we're going to see, there's still going to be a few victims, I believe.
Yeah. This is close to a splash page. It's, obviously it doesn't take up the full page because they leave a lot of space for this news reporter. And I think it's the same Asian news reporter that's used in all the other ones, but her hair is pretty different. I couldn't quite catch if it was the exact same one or just a similar. She's working for Wham, though, so she doesn't seem to be on the serious news station that she is in all the other ones. So that's why I thought maybe it's just a different news reporter.
Possibly a local reporter.
Yeah, possibly. And gives a rundown of the previous events that already happened with taking out the Spider-Man, the mutant Spider-Man, and then the fact that the vicious circle have taken all these hostages. Great shot, though. I mean, we get Savage Dragon in the back with his text, just enough text to point to where he is since he's such a small figure.
Yeah.
And then the 3 villainous figures, which with Mako up front, who's awesome Shark Man with some tubing. This big guy who isn't that cool looking and probably for a good reason. And then I forget what this guy is called. Is he Hellraiser?
Hellraiser, yeah.
Okay. I was thinking with that being a DC title, or no, with that being obviously the movie Hellraiser, that he wouldn't call him that. But it's hilarious that he's called Hellraiser and is a very Cenobite S&M kind of character with the open shirt.
But he's done the very 90s thing of just changing the spelling, right? So the Hellraiser movies, they raise hell. In this case, he's got razors and blades, right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how he can get away with it with the trademark and copyright kind of deal. So
yeah,
and this is kind of a just reintroduction, a second introduction to the exact same characters we saw at the end of issue 1, right? We don't have the Overlord in this shot, but it's very similar shot to how they were introduced at the end of issue 1.
Yeah. Absolutely. They were the 3 that were alluded to, and now that's being paid off. That the end of issue 1, hey, here's the bad guys coming, and here they are.
And right away, as opposed to, the Marvel books I was used to reading up at this point, just that there'll be more, but just that little touch of blood down here is like, oh, okay, this is, part of what made Image cool, that same old thing of this isn't your parents' comics, this isn't your parents' music. Another example again of them not using the comics code and going pretty far out there with the gore and the violence. Not that much on this page, but as we move through the sequence, we'll see a lot more of it. This is kind of a hint of things to come.
Yeah, the stakes are a little higher. A lot of figures in the background. So it's good job of setting up that there are a bunch of hostages in the background, in addition to the one hostage obviously being held up front and the hostage that's on the floor that's already bleeding. Yeah. And Hellraiser is holding the hostage, who obviously look injured, but there's a bunch more in the background. So I think it's a great setup. And
yeah, a lot of great layering in this shot here.
Yeah. The facial shots, pretty awesome. The dialogue, again, there's this silly back and forth dialogue, pretty meaningless overall. You're a funny guy, but looks aren't everything, ain't everything.
This whole sequence, I remember as a kid, again, just as opposed to the Marvel comics I was used to, just this very idea that they just throw a bunch of the hostages at Erik Larsen. I was like, oh, they're so evil, like that. As a kid, I was like, man, I never would have seen this in a mainstream book. And again, why I appreciate the fact that Image were doing their own thing, not submitting to the comics code to be able to do this kind of sequence, because obviously I don't think any Marvel editor would have let anything like this get past them in the early 90s. But yeah, Image can just go full bore and just, again, a new idea that I hadn't really seen in comics, right? Just throwing a bunch of hostages at the guys, just kind of evil and crazy.
Yeah, it would be a horrible conundrum for the hero. I mean, just you show up to try to battle these guys and they just throw people at you.
And who do you save, right? Like, who do you try to save out of this whole bunch? It's, yeah.
Yeah, you can't catch them all. They're, to be fair, they're not going to die from this. They're probably going to crack some ribs or break a leg or something. They'll be hurt, but being thrown across the room, they probably won't die unless they get impaled on something. But it's definitely they put them in a tough spot.
Listen, depending on how far and how high they're thrown, you're at least, some of them are going to become paraplegics, I would think.
Man, they just had a mass of people in there. The tons of effects, his attempts to catch a few folks.
Yeah. Oh,
Fun
blood,
page.
thud.
Yeah, and it gets back into being nitty and gritty with the coloring and the splattering that's on the page.
All of this back here is just, it's all in shadow, but it's like, oh, it's pretty horrific, right?
Yeah, and it's a very action-oriented page. Like, you can see how fast this page is moving because you've got the hero, he's back, he's trying to catch these people. The next shot is him leaping forward, I guess, after the people have gone past enough for him to get to the villains. And then the villain, very cartoonishly, and you're going from this front leaping shot to the side view, and with Hellraiser just holding up this little kid and him being, I mean, obviously, just to make the shot work, it's compressed with all the figures like right there next to each other, when in reality, there's actually more space between them. He's not really right there, but it's making the point of him being about to crash into this kid. And what does he do? Hey, it's so cartoonish. It's so fun. And the villains, again, are being so evil, but cartoonishly evil.
Sure. But yeah, just they're so close together. It gets the idea across of what's happening really quickly. And obviously the danger that this kid is in now, that, all of Savage Dragon's forward momentum could unfortunately end up right in that kid's face, right?
They it's not in the PDF here, but there was a poster in the middle of each of the miniseries.
Oh yeah.
And in this case, there's just the one poster. There's not 4 different posters for 4 different logo colors. So it's a fun poster. It's a great poster. Savage Dragon leaping kind of over a car and a bunch of graffiti in the background. But anyway, and the poster also takes the time to let you know about the Megaton Man coming for the Savage Dragon Megaton crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great issue. And they also get an ad on the other page of the poster. So they put the poster to quite a bit of use, of using the backside of the poster instead of it being blank.
Yeah, never let a page go to waste, right?
Yeah, no, if you can get some stuff in there, it's basically free real estate at that point if it's going to be there anyway.
Smart marketing.
Yeah, great action shot here. And this one, it does a couple of things that I really like. I mean, it's really 2 panels pretty much, but that big top panel, which is divided into 3, but it's divided into 3 so that while the background is the same shot, Savage Dragon himself is moving through it. So for the purpose of the panel divides, with like he was right in front of the kid, somersaults over the kid, grabs Hellraiser by the head, and kicks the other big, I do not remember the name of this big guy. He's not going to matter.
I don't even know if it's mentioned.
Yeah. But, and again, it's such a full shot too. I mean, think at how much Eric had to draw. Background wise, not a lot. He's got little floor paneling, but in addition to the kid, I mean, there's just figures everywhere throughout this shot, all around. There's an old Aunt May in the background.
Yeah.
Pretty much looks like. And what is that, 5, 6 other figures in there? Oh, in addition to the bad guys and the hero, he's sparing no expense. You're getting your money's worth on these pages.
Yeah, this is the kind of sequence, say, if Rob Liefeld had drawn, you wouldn't have any background. You might have the floor at worst, but you wouldn't have all these extra background characters, not at least in the amount that Larsen's thrown in here. I really like the fact that, the three shots of the dragon in the sequence. The first one is behind kind of the panel break here, right?
Yeah.
And then how the second, the most dynamic shot, obviously him doing the flip, overlaps all three panels. It's just, I think it's just a clever move, and it really helps the clarity of the movement and the visuals that he's trying to get across. This could have really sucked and been confusing, and Larsen just pulls it off masterfully, and it looks really great, and it's an awesome kind of action sequence. It's almost like animation.
Yeah, it is really fantastic. And then using the final panel of the page to do the body slam of him just slamming Hellraiser into the floor.
The impact is felt. All this debris kind of, popping up is really good too. The sound effect is, again, a little funny. Kakarash.
Yeah.
Not sure how they're coming up with these.
Yeah. No, they're very silly. And then great action shot of the villains kind of like, they're making their comeback in the fight. Fun cartoonish behind shot of Mako getting the punch in, and then the villains are just starting to pour it on. Savage Dragon gets a swipe in, but Hellraiser cuts him up. A lot of blood, which you've been bringing up.
That's it. It starts to get ramped up as we go through the sequence. There's just more and more of it. Again, some funny sound effects. Krabrak, Choom, Waram, Crack, I guess makes sense, but yeah, this feels harsh. Just the blades, the razors from Hellraiser just cutting through Savage Dragon chest here.
Yeah, and it's a great, so the shot of his face is awesome because you can really see his pain and anguish that he's going through from it. And also in the comic, this page stands out so much because the fight is mostly full bleed to this point. It's been page after page of full bleed with muted colors. And then we get to this page where it's mostly paneled. I mean, there's the open panel at the bottom that goes full bleed, but the other panels are legit panels with a white background. And so that white background really makes this page pop compared to the other pages that have had, where they have had panel dividers have been in black.
Yeah, I like that. I like the use of both, right? The kind of the like you said, it really kind of impacts you as soon as you hit that page that has the white border for some reason. Helps kind of pull in focus on the action that's going on.
Oh, and then just when Savage Dragon's down, and I mean, he says he's still going, but he's not looking good. He's
especially with that pool of blood down here.
Oh, and that great. So, I mean, you've got the impact with the wall in panel 1, but then the crater in the wall in panel 2. There's a real feel of impact rather than, there are comics where superpowered guys are fighting and it doesn't seem like the city suffers that much. But that wall really.
Collateral damage, yeah.
Yeah. And then the great shot of Super Patriot just crashing the wall, which is almost, it's not identical to the shot on the cover. It's slightly different, but it's very similar, as if maybe he used the same sketch to start with.
It's definitely beat-wise in the plot, like the same moment, right? This is basically the same moment as the cover.
Yeah.
Good shot, too.
Yeah, great shot.
And I like the dragon's posture as well here, too. Like, he's still kind of defiant, but you can tell he's pretty beat up with just the way he's kind of struggling to get up, it feels like.
Yeah, and that dripping blood that's pooling onto the floor and streaming away is clearly not okay.
Yeah, that hints that there's more blood in the foreground, right?
Oh. Back to the, it's the muted colors again. And Super Patriot immediately goes from being a fisted fighter to just his arms have just opened up, compartmentalized into these giant guns with multiple barrels. It's wildly over the top.
Very 90s.
Yeah, great for kids who grew up with Transformers or with manga that's just started, like anime. If I'm remembering time period right, like anime's really just starting to get to the US and get a lot more recognition. It took a while for it to get over here. But having this hero just immediately like, these are the guys that beat him up. So you can't really feel bad for him. These are the guys that destroyed his life, and he's back to get revenge. He just comes in shooting.
And here's our first bad guy. I'm going to assume death, right? Because he seems to be getting shot through the head here, which we will get tons of in the Savage Dragon over the course of the miniseries and the regular series. Larsen was always very good. I know that sounds horrible, but very good at killing characters, you know, where in mainstream comics, maybe, you know, you think they're dead and they come back. In the Larsen books, there are a lot of characters who bite it and just never come back.
Yeah, I did think I understand Savage Dragon jumping into like, he's not about killing the guys.
Yeah.
But at the same time, him saying you're killing them, murdering them in cold blood, it's like, this is not a cold blood situation. These are horrible villains who are putting the lives of all these innocent people, at least to the situation, in grave danger, just throwing them across the room, was beating him to death. So it's a weird line.
I agree. I always thought it was a little weird. I guess at this point, you know, Savage Dragon's exact morality hadn't really been established. So I feel like later on he does maybe get to a point where he's not as against killing these bad guys, right? Later on in the series. But, you know, I guess, you know, Larsen thinking that the dragon should be somewhat of a morally upstanding kind of character, I guess, at this point. And that's why he's got to establish this. And also, maybe just to create that conflict right off the bat between Savage Dragon and Super Patriot, giving Super Patriot a reason to retaliate against the dragon as well.
Yeah, like a stop, you're going too far, or stop, we don't need to kill them, would have fit maybe a little better rather than what feels like maybe a line that like, oh yeah, I heard it in a movie or something, and I'll just use that and go.
Yeah, murdering them in cold blood. You mean like these guys have been doing for the last, you know, who knows how much time against anyone who's in their way? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. The arms are awesome looking. You know,
oh, just, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we see it on the next page too. And again, a good going to the white, going back to having actual paneling, not full bleed, having the one open panel and using the white background so that these pages really pop from each other. And the guns are so cool. It's almost like his use of webbing from before, where you had the spaghetti webbing, where it's all over the place. These guns are practically all over the place, where they're so detailed. It's pipe after pipe. Like these are like Gatling gun arms, but then there's more guns coming off of them.
Yeah, it's again, it's that 90s kind of crazy, awesome, extreme kind of vibe that a lot of these comics had, right? Especially from Image. I mean, they were kind of the kings of that. I like this little detail of the one kind of thing that's popping out of his leg here that eventually is basically like, I guess, like a cattle prod, you know,
Yeah.
and shocking dragon. And I didn't mention earlier, but I like the color change too here.
Yeah.
Kind of going to the blue with the electric kind of feeling of dragon being electrocuted, similar to, I didn't mention, but when we went through the arachnid sequence, right? When he gets electrocuted by the water and the wire, you get that blue hue again. I think that works really well. And then we've just got a quick 3-panel sequence of just brutal action from Super Patriot beating the shit out of Savage Dragon and more blood, right?
Yeah, that panel up there was a really good spot to go monochromatic and just use different shades of one color. It's very moody and it stands out so much from the very hyper colored other panels, just right through the middle. It's a great pick, great choice. And yeah, the 3 brutal panels, just the beat down.
Yeah, it really gets across what's going on. Just that color really helps.
So the Super Patriot, who immediately assumed that Savage Dragon was part of the Vicious Circle, which makes sense as a story bit.
Let me just pop that back in. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Mentions that he thinks he's a new recruit, bad career choice, wrong move, dead wrong, about to just blast him in the face. Great shot. There, I mean, he's definitely sparing no detail. As you look over the legs and the arms, like all the lines, all the little mechanics, and all of that fractured wall behind the figure, all the hairs on Savage Dragon. I mean, the amount of time that he had to spend, at least in, say, this lower quadrant of the image, versus like the top of the image where there's flat wall for the most part. But it's so detailed. And the gun arm that's just pipe after pipe stuck together. It's over the top and very awesome.
Yeah, I think the posturing is really good too. Like, the very kind of in charge and dominant kind of position of Super Patriot versus, Savage Dragon, who's just had his ass handed to him. It's just, not he's being held up by Super Patriot here. If Super Patriot were to let go, he would just kind of fall back here.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a lot of the detail, right? A lot of the lines and the hatching, and the arm hair and stuff. This is the kind of stuff where, as we move through the regular series of Savage Dragon, Larsen starts to pull back a bit. I can understand with deadlines and a monthly schedule and stuff like that. Not that I think the art suffers or the storytelling suffers in any way, but he was definitely pouring it on here in this mini series and really going ham with all the detail, which is great and definitely fits with that early image aesthetic that was being established as well. So a good example of that here.
Yeah, and I genuinely I love these colors that Greg does, who slid over from the Spider-Man series that Eric Larsen was working on to come on and do this series. And I'm gonna have to look into what happened to him afterwards.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think he comes back later on, if I'm not mistaken. I know Steve Oliff is on there for a while, and then at some point they revert back to him, which is good in a way, because we've talked about this before, how about I feel his coloring style definitely fit the Savage Dragon most, and not as, the colors being a little bit brighter, saturated, a little less dark than what Steve Oliff was doing on the Savage Dragon.
Yeah, something else I forgot to mention with the credits page is also Eric was the only guy who brought along, he does have an editor.
Yeah, Janie Wong, who I think is his wife, basically. I think he's kind of doing the McFarlane there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And at some point, she disappears as well. So maybe she wasn't too hot on all the violence and stuff in the Savage Dragon as well. I don't know.
She stuck it out for 28 issues. So she was there for a while. But I was trying to find the credits for beyond the 28 issues of Savage Dragon and wasn't finding them. So that does make sense. That's too bad. I was really going to give him props for like, hey, at least somebody thought a real editor might help.
Well, here's the thing too. We're fans and we love comic books.
Yeah.
I'm not going to assume that, Todd McFarlane's wife and Eric Larsen's wife are into comic books per se. It almost feels like they were doing that editor job as just a second pair of eyes to help out their husband, right? Which makes sense.
Sure.
And maybe after a while, they're just like, you know what? I think you got a handle on this. You don't really need me going through this issue. And what that means is I'm kind of tired of going through your issues. That's probably what I feel happens there.
Yeah.
So now we've got Alex entering the scene, right?
Yep. And she drops the important piece of information that, hey, he's a police officer, and Super Patriot, being a patriot, you go, oh no, I've made this horrible mistake. I thought this is a bad guy. I've just been punching up a cop. So he kind of has a mental freeze.
Yeah, you can see whatever programming they put into him is kind of just going haywire here, and he's just kind of repeating, almost like that old school does not compute kind of vibe, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not much else to say about this page. More of what we've seen before, with again Super Patriot kind of standing and lording it over Savage Dragon here.
Yeah, and the thing, if you go back, so like, I mean, Dragon's posture again at the top, he's very like laid back, like he's done. At the bottom, his facial shot is like, you'd think he's dead.
He could be, yeah, absolutely.
Or knocked out. It is weird that the blood's still across the face. Well, it is starting to stream down, so that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, based on that, eyes open but head back, you just think he's completely done. There is that fun panel break there where Murphy, she's got her gun out, and the gun is the one thing that breaks the panel as the barrel comes out. It's good little bit, keeps the animation going. Yeah, fun. And again, all the hyper details. I just wanted to bring that up.
And then, of course, well, would have been a surprise if I hadn't skipped to the page, but basically
Yeah.
Dragon coming to and just, smashing Super Patriot's head between both of his fists.
Yeah, he has that one moment of like his last gasp of strength and getting this just double hit shot, just smashing Super Patriot's head in between his giant fist and his huge, hugely muscular arms and back. I think as the book goes on too, his legs do become less proportioned to the upper body, while
They get
here they're
Yeah, they get smaller and smaller, and already we're seeing that little waist and the very, let's be honest, very tiny buttocks proportionately to, you know. So feels like Savage Dragon really works on, if you were a bodybuilder, really works on the upper body, not so much on the glutes.
yeah, what you would need. I mean, if you're going to be throwing these punches, you need to be able to back them with a solid foundation. So
Need to be doing your squats for sure.
yeah, we get a regular a wham this time.
And a wump, which makes sense to me. That works for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And then another shot of Dragon here, kind of bleeding out, right?
yep. Those legs look pretty proportionate there.
Yeah, it kind of goes in and out, and it really, I guess, is in the regular series. Probably around the time we get to somewhere around issue 20, 25 is when we really start to lock into that huge upper body and the small legs. Because I start to see other artists representing Dragon. I remember Greg Capullo, I felt was one of the best. He didn't draw Dragon a lot, but when he did, it was pretty close to those Larsen proportions. He was really sticking to that.
The wump's an interesting letter choice, very blocky, and then just the lines,
The diagonal lines is
create
kind
the
of
letters. Yeah,
different. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. And then we get the dragon's like that was his last strength. He's lost a lot of blood, and he faints on the ground. Back to and that final panel, it's back to his facial shot being so comatose looking, like eyes open, but he's just out.
Completely out of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, all the arm hair, it's so Wolverine reminiscent.
Yeah. He's pretty hairy for a reptile.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know he's not actually a reptile, but
Right.
probably warm-blooded as well.
Yeah.
This I found interesting too because later on in the series, the dragons, maybe because it's his first real battle where he bleeds out like this and stuff, where he says so much blood.
Mhm.
It's almost like he's trying to, or almost establishing that has some sort of aversion to blood. But later on, as we go, throughout the series, and the number of times he bleeds and he gets his arm ripped off and it grows back, and all the kind of body horror that happens. So it's almost like he gets used to it through the series and starts to kind of like, almost like he gets to a point where here he's like, oh my God, so much blood. And then later on, he's like, some blood.
I thought maybe he was trying to have the character tell you, yeah, I've lost a lot of blood.
Yeah.
I've lost a lot of blood, and that's why I'm about to faint because I'm running out of blood here.
And of course, with his mysterious past and his lack of memories and stuff, maybe he doesn't know at this point that he's got that quick healing factor, the Wolverine-esque kind of healing abilities. So maybe he's actually worried here that he could actually bleed out, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the fin is I don't know, it's tough to tell with the angle. It moves around so much. I know it became a big deal, but it's like, yeah, whatever from panel to panel.
Feels pretty tall in this one, almost slightly disproportionate from what's established before, but whatever.
Oh,
Still looks pretty cool.
yeah.
And we get this is the last page, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah, big splash page. And in the first issue, he's in a burning field, and this time he's just on a cold
It's kind of
floor.
similar. Yeah. Similar kind of composition.
Yeah.
And we're getting the aftermath of this whole situation here.
Mm-hmm. All the bodies, you've still got the Super Patriot, and all the bodies being in that blue color so that they're not the focus, but they are detailed.
Yeah.
You've got the villain that got shot. He's on the ground. I'm guessing that's probably Hellraiser with the cloak next to him, and probably Mako on the other side with the weird feet.
Got a bunch of hostages back there as well.
Yeah,
bleeding. Lots of blood on this page.
Yeah,
a lot of
really
focus
like the
on
color.
blood.
It's great to see all the figures, but they also are muted so that I mean, they are, and it's what Eric did. He made a circle around the Savage Dragon with the bodies, but the color really brings it home. And then also Chris doing the lettering of having such the huge balloon, but the actual lettering is the same size for readability, but you would definitely get this feeling of like someone's whispering or saying something that everybody else isn't going to hear. It's very much
not very loud, right? Yeah.
Oh my God. They're not, oh my God.
Oh yeah, it's she's definitely not belting it out, right? She's kind of saying under her breath.
Yeah.
But yeah, good choice by the colorist to just have all those figures in those blue hues, separate them a little bit, and create that sharp focus in the center with Alex and Dragon and the whole aftermath of this battle.
Yeah.
Even the little bits of debris being in blue definitely helps with that focus on the center of the composition.
Yeah. And also, I guess it's maybe a reflection of the ceiling or something. Like in the blood, you see there's those lines.
Yeah.
It's almost like action lines or something, but it's an interesting choice. I'm guessing it's the ceiling reflection above or something. I'm not sure. Or if it's supposed to just be different congealing.
It's kind of the distortion that a liquid kind of creates in a reflection, I guess, is what he's going for there. But it works. It makes it look nice and shiny with, the blood being reflective as well, right?
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
And I mean, this is definitely a parting shot that, again, you want to pick up that next issue right away. You're like, hey, man, what's going to happen with the dragon, right?
Sure. Yeah. For the last issue, they alluded to the bad guys and, something's coming. And this issue, you end on like,
something came.
What's the fallout of this?
As weird as that sounds.
Does the hero die after issue 2?
Yeah. Well, again, Larsen, not with the main character necessarily, but he was very good with having characters actually die in his series and not come back. He's one of those, he kind of, it was Robert Kirkman who talked a lot about that. I don't know. Have you ever read Invincible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he took a lot of inspiration in Invincible with that kind of stuff from the Savage Dragon series because he loved it as a kid. And Invincible is another one of those series where you get shock moments where, long-standing characters, you flip a page and boom, they just get, destroyed, eradicated, and killed. And you don't really expect that, right? In something that isn't quite mainstream comics by the time Invincible comes around, though, it's fairly mainstream, right? A lot of these concepts and ideas that weren't in mainstream comics in the 90s and 2000s with, Marvel and DC are now pretty commonplace across all books,
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess this is a good point to leave off on for this video here. Unless you guys else. Yeah.
What I was going to bring up is because the comic actually took 3 months to come out. Yeah. The letters from fans had already come in. So there's a significant 3-page letter section. There's a Q&A that goes on for quite a bit, but then there's a couple pages of shorter fan letters and a bunch of fan art. Actually 5 pieces of fan art with artists doing pretty good job, different styles. And then there's a few ads. So it advertises Cyber Force, which is coming up, and Wildcats, which are, And then the Malibu slips in on the back cover, their Protectors comic.
Yes, I remember seeing that ad all over the place. That was kind of their book that they were trying to connect a little bit with the Image vibe and try to sell on the back of that, I feel.
Yeah. Yep. Very cool.
All right. Well, I guess then that is where we're going to leave it today with our review of Savage Dragon #2. Unless you got anything you want to add there, Mark.
I would say Eric Larsen's the most consistent. Like, we saw that so far, like Youngblood gets a little better. Spawn kind of dips a bit. Savage Dragon, it's just 100% consistent. There's not really an up or down to it. It comes in strong, tells the story very well. It has plenty of action, so it keeps the book moving. So you get action, you get a little bit of plot advancement, back to some action, back to some background details, plot advancement, back to some action, end on a cliffhanger. The art was great from the get-go. The colorist does a great job. He had a very good letterer from the get-go, which was actually one of the issues with Youngblood, was very amateurish or spotty lettering, often on a deadline. But his Eric's letterer is great from the get-go and stays for a long, long time. And his letterer also taught lettering courses, and you can get fonts from him online. You can go check him out.
Yeah. He's pretty much one of the top letterers in the industry.
Yeah. So top letterer has this great color. He already knows art, story, all of it's great from the get-go. And the issue 2, it's just another great issue that's there's no it doesn't go up or down because it's already up here, and he holds the line. I think he's absolutely the most consistent of the guys throughout this run.
Yeah, that's definitely the word to describe, I think, the Savage Dragon overall, not just the miniseries but the regular series as well, is that consistency. And he just makes sure that in every issue you've got a surprise or a shocking moment, right? Like, by issue 2, you don't necessarily expect the Savage Dragon to get his ass handed to him, right? So it's pretty surprising that he gets beat up to this level here in the second issue. He's barely been around, and he's already gotten his ass kicked, and we're already wondering, is he possibly going to die?
Yeah. And while a lot of the creators had so many other things, because like Rob and Jim both expand their lines, and their real role becomes so much more about managing the pieces and the parts, and not nearly as much putting actual time in on the comics themselves, maybe mentor and advisor. Obviously, Todd sticks with kind of the one book, really. He has little bits of forays out and other things, but gets in on, like, the toy thing becomes his real avenue.
His main focus, for sure.
Yeah, his main focus becomes the toy company, has the TV show, and the cartoon, actually really good. And then, Jim Valentino kind of recruits in some different people, does a couple other projects. Mark mostly sticks to the book, but Eric's like the guy that was just like, I just want to make comics. And that's, purely the focus. And he does the tiny little things where he has a few friends he brings in and gives some projects to, or helps promote something they're doing, works a little bit here and there, but mostly just keeps putting his time and attention into Savage Dragon. And that's why it comes out, once he gets through these first couple issues, it comes out consistently month after month, and the quality's always there, because that's what he's doing every month. Is just what he always wanted to do, and that's what he puts it into.
And that's to this day. Even I know the book isn't necessarily monthly anymore, but it's still produced 100% by Larsen. Yeah, it's like all the Image founders, dabbled in, being comic creators and creating their own book, but also to various degrees being the heads of studios, right? Where it feels like, with, you mentioned Rob Liefeld, Mark Silvestri, Jim Lee, eventually, being the head of a studio and almost the editor or the publisher starts to take more importance, and they produce less and less actual work and actual books.
Yeah.
Where Larsen dabbled a little bit and got some stuff out there, but never lost focus on his book. McFarlane kind of in the same boat to a certain extent, at least for a while. When Greg Capullo came on, we didn't have the McFarlane art anymore, but he was still writing, still editing the book. But yeah, definitely, not even the head of a studio anymore, but the head of I guess an entertainment company, when you include the toys and getting the movie made and the animation, the TV show and all that, getting Spawn out there, obviously. Larsen is just the one out of all of those guys who, right from the beginning, no matter what else he kind of dabbled in within Image as a head of studio, his studio, Highbrow Entertainment, always kept that focus on his creator-owned book and the consistency of that book as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've said enough about that. So we're going to go with our outro and get this video done. So we want to thank everyone out there who's watching the videos and who are subscribed to the channel. We really do appreciate your support. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It takes a quick second for you, helps the channel out, helps us grow, and helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books just like we are. Speaking of comic books, you can check out my books, Big Baby and STARCRASHER, at KINGCOMICS.CA. Links in the description below. And Mark has his books and projects on the Big Cartel website. You'll have the link below as well, which includes the KAYFABE Death of a Super that we've talked about before. We've got a video. Go check it out. There's the Image Grand Design. Anything else that you want to mention, Mark, that I'm maybe forgetting?
Darker Image 1 is still on there, and Sets of my Guano Guy comic book is still on there. So, yeah, few things.
So again, the links below for all of our books, my books, and Mark's books will be in the description. So check those out and hit us up for some orders. And that is it. So we're going to leave you on that, guys. Mark, thanks again for joining me for a fun video, checking out some cool comic. And everyone out there, thanks for watching and have yourselves an awesome day.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents STARCRASHER one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like, subscribe.